Welcome back. Yes, Bishop Isaac Idahosa, Vice Presidential Candidate of the NNPP for the 2023 elections, joins us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today. I thought politics was over, but...
No, politics...
I see you're still wearing this.
Never over. Never over. We still wear this Conquisia. You see, Conquisia is beyond politicking. It's an ideology and having to do with affecting and impacting the masses. So even after campaigning or electioneering, you still go ahead doing the same thing.
I find it interesting that you're not wearing this cap, because even during elections, you didn't wear it.
No, I did.
I mean, it was like you tried to maintain your own identity.
No, but the cap was always on.
No, remember, at the time you were it was in the jacket.
Maybe that was jacket. You could have worn suit and put on...
if you were India, you would.
but having seen the way things are going on now, particularly the policies of government and the economy, I know that almost every party, I think including your party, also said they were going to do something about fuel subsidy. And having seen the impact of what's going on now, means if any party were in power, this might have been what they would have faced. So when you see this playing out, what do you think? What goes on in the minds of yourself?
I would have preferred where they would have invested whatever palliative in infrastructure, things that would have brought better dividends than maybe, and I pray there will be proper management of the 5 billion to different states and governments to be able to reach out to the grassroots. The problem is not with the funding, but the management. And so where you see you want to be responsible, but you don't want to be accountable. So where the problem is. The masses must feel the government. And of course, from the center, it couldn't be done alone. It has to be spread to the local governments and to the wards. So we'll look out to seeing how this will play out.
You know, for instance, I mean, you also lead and manage several people in the ministry. And the thing about this is when you see young people wanting to leave the country or put in place measures, in fact, there were those who thought, okay, after the elections, they'll decide. But even at that, people still have their plans, they're still going away. So you might have had an interaction or two. What do you think was the overarching decision or challenge or complaint or issue that they had with the country upon them taking that decision to leave?
Things are getting much harder, not without us stepping into the matter to saying, oh, things will be better. We keep, anchoring their lives on hope, things will be better. As the more we preach the hope message, the more things get bad for them. But you see, it's a process. The government have taken definitely through right policies, and it's going to bite. And after the bite, after the pain, then the gains will begin to come. But not too many people are patient enough to watching the gains come.
Doesn't that also speak to, my apologies, doesn't that also speak to how we communicate, these things to the people? For instance, take the example of the construction industry. If you want to build on bare ground, it's cheaper. But if you want to rebuild on a facility where there already is an infrastructure, you have to not just demolish the building, you have to root out the foundation of that building to put in a new one. It'll take longer. It'll be more costly,
that's right,
and it'll be more painful. Now, the challenge is not what you are doing. You're talking about, converting the monies and everything, resources, into building infrastructure for the people. Naturally, it'll take a little longer. But people need something, as we say on the streets, urgent 2K. Something quick and immediate that people can say, okay, well, while you're dealing with... Sorry?
25K.
So while you are dealing with the larger, medium to long-term issues, I need to survive before I can get to that level. Now, you have talked about a crucial thing about, the management of these resources at the state level. The challenge is the monitoring of it. The challenge is the execution of it. And this is not just something that is happening now. This is perennial. The 2020 experience is still very, very fresh. So what would be your recommendation as to how people can measure and ensure that these things actually get to the people?
Monitoring.
How?
Accountability.
How?
Now, you see,
the federal government has given it. The federal government cannot monitor the states, can they?
They can. You see, you can monitor if you want to monitor. You see, we throw out things out there without necessarily putting devices in place to check meat. and census those who have been affected rurally, and then the grassroots. 2 weeks ago, Andy said, I just decided to give out 10,000 to as many. I put it on Facebook, Instagram, and I censused it. How? Those, I didn't need to know you to do that. I just at random picked. And we ensured those who knew me never got it. Those who never knew me from Adam, in fact, majority even from the north, got it, invested it. And then we want to find out what they can do with 10,000. You'll be amazed that some have just started. Within 3 weeks, I've been able to make some little money. So those who have made some money, we're looking forward to adding some. So they are able to make a living. Things are very bad. We have been pastoring. Just Sunday, we were celebrating our 34th church anniversary. We know how many we fed. It's not enough to keep giving you food, fish. They will teach you fish, acquisition, investing in human capital development. Now, again, the policies have been so far so good, but we must give it time. Now, the palliatives are good, but the monitoring effect, we must put mechanisms in place, devices in place to ensuring that these monies get to those.
You know, I can't seem to get past this look. I've been staring at you since, and you know, there is a part of me.
What's up with this cap?
It is rude to stare, so pardon me. But you know, I also remember that there has been some controversy, and I really hate to take you back, but there's been some controversy over, you know, the NNPP and how it is structured. Thankfully, you know, you have a state. And you have a hugely popular state, Kano, which we'll come to in a moment. But, you know, people have been saying, but the NNPP should not be synonymous with Kwankwansia. You know, that Kwankwanso is one person. Yes, he is a Colossus within the party, but he cannot just overtake the party. Do you think that he's overtaking?
He never overtook the party.
Do you think he's overtaking the party with everybody dressed like this?
No.
Is this becoming synonymous with the NNPP?
This is not forceful. This is willingly. Kwankwansia is in the heart. Like I've told you, the ideology endears him to as many as myself. Now, he's never hijacked the party. He has no intention hijacking the party. What you hear in the public domain are just what people want to fabricate. They want to say what they feel like saying.
But there are people within the NNPP who say
I'm telling you, there are people, even in the 12, we have Judases there who really don't understand the policies.
So the people who are saying these are Judases?
They are not Judases, but I'm just telling you that they are saying what they feel like saying. Kwankwaso never stood or never told me I was his running mate, never sat me down to say I'm hijacking the party or I'm colonizing the party. No.
Okay.
It's not so. Like today, we have a NEC meeting for 12 noon to be able to iron out things. In the family, you have all manner of people, misunderstandings here and there. And the key thing there is dialoguing and expressing your mind. Pour out your mind and let's then strike a balance. Those
are some of the things I'll be ironed out.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so let's go back to the economy. I mean, in Kano State, you know, where we've seen a new governor take over. In fact, when he took over, one of the things he started by doing was demolition. People were wondering what's going on here. Is this the government of demolition or demolishment, as the case might be? And so there have been questions as to what precisely the plan is, because people are hoping that one of the things that they will see with the political parties is that whatever it is that they have preached that they were going to do at the center, they will have an opportunity to execute even more brilliantly at a state level. It should be very obvious when they've done it. So for a state like Kano, are you people keeping an eye? Because I know that, well, you're in Abuja now, you're going to have a NEC meeting. Is Kano going to be one of the areas, you know, where you're going to be, you know, putting some pressure, because you've talked about monitoring, on the governor to say, look, you know you are a standard bearer right now, and there's going to be a lot of attention on how it is that we also handle the local economy of Kano. What sort of measures would you be saying that the government of the NNPP will be doing differently from what we see in other states?
That's already we are doing things differently. But then these were the things that were in our manifesto when we were campaigning. Public spaces that were hijacked or misused would be regained for the true original plan for Kano. And that's exactly what you found us doing in Kano. When you go to Kano, it's a different ball game to what we hear outside Kano. People are so excited that these changes you find, like the demolition. You'll find within 1 week of our government in place in Kano, were the things we promised the people, that once we attain by God's grace a place of position, these are the things. And those things made them one of the reasons they voted for us.
He's likely going to be distracted if he continues like that.
No, but if you watch closely now, there's time for everything. I'm not sure demolition is still ongoing now. And it's not like going round about demolition everywhere. No, there are so many specific places which he has already done. And now you can see governance is going on, people are happy. You know, the essence of governance is to make people happy. When things happen well, they become happy and they are fully in support of the government.
So what's going on with the principal? I mean, yeah, we know elections are over. He's not in court, is he?
No.
You know, Labour,
we never
PDP.
went to court from inception.
Why is that?
We just chose not to go to court. He is the one who accepts the will of God. You remember when we lost in Kano 2019, never had to go to court. Even this time around, we just chose, it was a decision made not to go to court.
We also know that the government, they say they were going to form a government of national unity. The PDP, I think the FCT minister did say he consulted with his party before taking that decision. So is NNPP still perhaps looking out? Has they been reached out to? Is anything, are they willing to support or help, suggest to the government on what to do moving forward? Everybody,
not just NNPP, we all have got equal access. So we have got equal access to the government, but we don't have equal crave to engaging the government. I'm sure you are aware that my principal, Dr. Kwankwaso, and His Excellency have been long-time friends. 1999 set of governors. So they've been on there. And even last week here, Thursday, they were together at the villa discussing how to ensure national progress.
You know, one of the things that, troubles my mind all the time when we talk about governance and impact on people is the diminished trust deficit between the government and the governed. We ask this question all the time, not just to make the news, but to let government know, and for people like you to also speak to how we can begin to, refund the trust account of government with the people. Because you said the other time, a huge number of people continue to leave this country, partly for the fact that they do not trust anything that has the word government as its end, be it local, state, or federal. So how do we begin to build back this trust deficit?
It takes time, and you see, trust takes time to be built. Just one mistake or a lie can destroy trust you have built over the years. When the government says this and they do same, integrity is the watchword. And where you find fairness, you find equity, you find justice, then that's what brings about trust. But when things are lopsided, you find nepotism like it used to be, you create room for people not to trust you by you saying one thing and doing another. I have watched again carefully 1, 2, 3 things that the government said and then retrieved their words. So that means to say, if a government has a listening ear, it builds trust through. Let the voices of the people be heard. Like the president would say, let the poor breed. Now the policies, right now the poor are believing God for a better tomorrow, a greater tomorrow. But trust is built with time. And not just what you preach, but what you do. You can preach all you know, but you reproduce who you are. The moment you begin to put in place, implement what you have said you will do, trust begins to build up.
But, building trust with the people is one thing. Building trust with young people, that's another kettle of fish altogether. Go on X right now and you will see trending stories, and they are not always pleasant. So engaging the young people, who form like between 60 and 70%, depending on whose data you are looking at, of Nigeria, the entire population of the country. Engaging these young people is not going to be done the way it was done in 1984. It has to be done completely uniquely. It has to be different altogether. So what steps would you recommend if you could do something about engaging young people? What
get them involved in governance. Get them fully involved in governance. And I pray that the next time they will choose Minister of Youth should be a youth. that will go a long way to letting them know, yeah, they have stake in this government. Let me tell you something. When you're outside the corridor of power, you wouldn't know what plays out. When I was growing up, there was this story of a commentator, football commentator, who was commentating and condemning every person possible on the field of play. So at about halftime of the game, they went to find out who this commentator is, who never gives credit to anybody on the field. They discovered he was a good person. He can't even play. So when you get involved, you will now discover the pressure in governance, where you need to govern Nigeria requires so much prayers. And that's what we are fully involved in doing, and asking God to really, really guide our leaders. And instead of complaining or tearing down the government, misrepresenting the government, we should find out what and where we can get involved. We can get involved too when we are given the space. That is when the youths are given the space in governance, you'll be able to now affect other youths. But when you leave them out of the scope of events, they'll begin to think differently. But when they get involved, that's the easiest way to build trust in you. That you count, and we need you now.
I talked to one because, I mean, I could go on and on. The young people is a passion for me and for a good number of us that are here, because we call them the leaders of tomorrow. I heard that song by Tosin Jagere, I think.
Yeah, the leaders of tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes.
Tomorrow.
They are the leaders of tomorrow was in the 80s, and the leaders of tomorrow are still struggling. And now the same thing that was being said to them in the 80s is the same thing that is being said to them today. The trust is gone, confidence is gone, and as you've noted, as you are very well aware, a good number of us are aware, young people continue to troop out of this country en masse.
Within 1 month, like I did mention before we came on, 54 that I'm aware of left the soil of this nation. Why? Looking for greener pasture. Now, with the policies in place, of course, we do know things will get better, but they are not patient enough. The youth want it now. Now, the youth of tomorrow, they never come. Power is not given, it's taken. Get involved. Look at, for instance, I got involved. I mentioned to you the way I got into politics and became the running mate to Dr. Kwankwaso. Now, you see, it has broadened my capacity. It has helped me to see differently. And again, my pastoral work, it has helped me to know much prayers are needed for government and in governance. The youth would do better if you grant them chance and allow them make their mistakes. We need the elderly, we need the youth. The two together, when they synergize, we'll have a better place.
The challenge that you will find there naturally, Bishop, is the youths in Lagos are not the same as the youths in Benin, not the same as the youth in Kebbi, not the same as the one in Kano. The orientations are completely different. We were talking about some cultural or barriers or differences earlier before this program started. So conversing with them, engaging the young people, is going to take some scientific skill that has to take some time to really think through and execute in a way that can achieve what you're talking about. So in terms of these specifics, it's not just something that we can leave to the federal government. It's something that has to do with the states as well. Well, a few of them are already in government at the state level, but everyone just wants to chase what they can have first. Is there a way to change that orientation? The Minister of Information and National Orientation was talking about that. Is there a way to change that narrative, particularly at the state level where we have the people living?
You see, orientation, like you did mention, is everything. When you void proper information, you can misunderstand it, or then when you misunderstand, you misreact. Now, when you keep hammering something, what you keep hearing, you begin to believe. What you keep believing, you become. In the process of orientating and bringing orientation, proper information, here and there, things will change. You see, even faith comes by hearing. What you keep hearing and you see them doing what they said they would do, changes will come. Okay. Like you said, it's unique. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Youth they are unique from state to state, they differ. Find out what is unique about them, and those who not necessarily have got certificates, skill acquisition. like what we did in Kano, and that's what ended my principal, Dr. Kwankwaso, to us many, who was able to raise different technical colleges and give some little funds to start off businesses. And when they begin to do things, they have job security, food security. They will reason well. A youth that is hungry can be angry sometimes.
Very true. Well, let's take a look at, what the role of the NNPP is going to be. You've talked about how you didn't go to court. That's not exactly the style of one of the key leaders of, let me say, the presidential candidate of your party. But one will be wondering, because you've also talked about how he's friends with the current president, and he's been to see him a few times. So one will wonder, are you going to be playing any role around opposition in this government? I mean, in this dispensation? Will the NNPP be criticizing openly, because don't tell us you're criticizing privately, will you be criticizing openly policies of government that you do not agree with? I'll give you an instance. This morning we're looking at Vanguard newspapers, and right on their front page, investors losing confidence in economy under Tinubu. That's according to the PDP. Do we hope to see some critique or some criticism?
Yes, of course.
From the NNPP? I
did mention about the palliative right even here, that we would have done it differently by investing in infrastructure. And again, I said, he showed his other side, his humility side, by saying he was going to give out 88,000, and he withdrew that. A good leader listens. You see, great people make mistakes. Great men, it's only great men that make mistakes. They don't make same mistakes. Now, if you don't criticize constructively, you don't even have to be in opposition. If you really want APC to go on forward, you must criticize the system. Look at this man, I think Northwest Vice Chairman, and what's his name again, who withdrew his services from the APC, and he brought to bear the things he never liked. This is how to run a government successfully. Now, the best friend you will ever have is one that looks at you and tells you the truth. Truth is constant. It doesn't matter how you feel. In good faith, in love for country, we must be able to look at ourselves and tell ourselves the truth. So
NNPP wants to look at the APC in love and tell them the truth.
We're already doing that. We're already doing that. Now, you see, we have one country. It doesn't matter whether NNPP, APC, once you have got a president that presides over the nation, then it is for us to now rally around and put in our quotas, find out how to be a better place for all of us to live in.
All right. So one thing I have heard, you talked about your principal, just putting in place some measures. I think a good credit system is what the government might look into to see how they could come up with that, because those persons who leave this country, what happens is when they get into those other countries, they plug into that system. And once you plug into a credit system. You're not under pressure to provide cash to buy a house. You can't provide cash to buy a car. You don't have to provide cash to do basic things. There's a system in place. So that takes a lot of burden off people. But here we play a lot of politics with data. So it's difficult because some people think if you get that data, they could use it, interpret it for election results. They interpret it for different things, and so they won't work towards getting that. Nothing wrong in harmonizing all our data here. It's for planning and for development. But if we keep putting politics first before those things, say, oh no, if you come up with a proper figure for census, with state of origin, or we'll get to see the real figures, you can't develop the country that way. So we need to learn probably to decide what we actually want. So there you go. Just Syria. I've tried to listen to my conversation. But I want to thank you for coming on. Bishop Isaac Idahosa was the NNPP vice presidential candidate. And so he says, well, they're going to be constructing what? Constructively. Criticizing constructively. Not, is that opposition? That's still opposition.
They're going to be criticizing in love.
Okay. Constructively. No, constructive criticism.
That's what I heard.
You see, anything in love, when you have love for country, you criticize in love.
Okay.
Because we have got one country, we have got one president, so we must team up to ensure things move on.